right? It's red zone efficiency. You went 5 for 6 in the red zone. The play calling looked dialed in. Mikey Flunt got his fade. Got
Thank
that
God.
fade to Denzel Boston. Perfect play call right there. He literally did look like Rome on that back pedal toe drag. I mean, that was fantastic.
Just absolutely takes out that tight end's
The
leg.
walks are flying.
Dude, I mean, he's prototypical dog, man. 4 tackles, pass deflection, a pick. I just couldn't be more impressed with our in-game adjustments.
All right, dog fans, before we hop into the show, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out, and we appreciate the support. Thanks to our sponsor, Simply Seattle, we'll be picking out one lucky new subscriber to win free Washington Huskies t-shirt and hat. To enter, just subscribe, drop a comment below letting us know that you've done it. You can be out there flexing that new Husky drip, that new Husky swag in no time. Plus, don't forget to check out Simply Seattle's QR code at the bottom of the screen, which will take you directly to their website for all your Washington Husky apparel needs. Good luck. Go Dogs. Thank you for everything.
Welcome to the Dub Dub Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Flunt. Today we're celebrating 27-17 victory over Michigan. I got my guys Izzo and Noah with me. Guys, this is a big, big win. It feels like we're back on track. Which one of y'all want to kick it off first? Hit me with it.
What you think, Izzo? How you feeling, big dog? You want me to go?
I feel friggin' fantastic. I've made a mental note to try the best I could ahead of this year to not just go crazy on Twitter with reaction, but I can't help myself. When it's time to freak out and tweet off some crazy stuff, you gotta pull the trigger, baby.
You're expressing yourself.
Man.
You're a peacock. Man. You gotta fly.
You gotta fly.
Dude, games like this have meaning. They're program builders, and UW's had a lot of big wins, in the history of the program, but we're under a new regime with Jed, and these guys, and you need a top 10 Michigan type win to kind of kick things off, man. And like I said, I mean, these types of wins have impact, not only for recruiting, but you know what, almost for the future of the fandom of the program. I remember being a young kid, man, watching UW, beat Michigan in the Rose Bowl, beat Purdue when I was a teenager, going back and beat Miami. And I mean, those are big wins. Those are monumental wins. That's when you're a 9-year-old, a 10-year-old, 11-year-old kid, and you watch the purple with the gold helmet, 72,000 strong on Montlake. There's people calling me after the game saying, man, I'll tell you, that Oregon game last year was wild, but dude, this game could have been louder. It could, and it's just like, I mean, all week we asked Jed, can we match the physicality of Michigan? Can we match that brand that they wanted to run it down our throat? They wanted to run you into submission. And man, I'll tell you what, dude, we did match it. We matched it so much that, we took Alex Orji out of the game.
They were able to move the ball a little bit better when they took him out. But that kind of felt like the turning point of the game where it's like, all right, we have this in control. Like, if you look at the end of game time of possession, ideally for Michigan, they wanted, if you're going to win that game with the running attack and you're only going to throw for 113 yards or whatever it was, you want to control the time of possession, and they didn't. It was ended up pretty much 50-50. I think it was like 30-30 for UW, and they were 29-30, something along those lines.
Yeah, it's like exactly like a 1 minute difference in it.
Yeah, so I obviously, this team, I don't think Michigan's going to end up finishing this season as a top 15 team in the country. They're not like a playoff contender, I don't think. But that was the stamp that UW put on that team. Like, if they beat UW on the road in their first away game, then they are being talked about in that light. So that's something that we can be proud of, that we kind of did. We took them out of that. And that's the redemption factor maybe that you look at from losing the national title to them. So loved it. I mean, the key pieces for this game at a high level, the stats have reflected that UW has won each of these games, right? If you just look at the stat sheet of how many yards versus how many yards your opponent got, UW has won that every single game. And it's the little things that help the final score to reflect that, right? It's red zone efficiency. You went 5 for 6 in the red zone. The play calling looked dialed in. Mikey Flunt got his fade. Thank God. Fade to Denzel Boston. That was awesome. Perfect play call right there. He literally did look like Rome on that back pedal toe drag. I mean, that was fantastic. the penalties, 4 of 30. If UW stays right there with their penalties and they're getting the ball out this fast, and your offensive line is going up against pretty much 4 NFL defensive linemen, and you can still be efficient through the air and threw for 315 yards, you're going to win football games. So the other thing that you could say that we struggle with to this point is consistency in the kicking game. And it started out that way, right? You had a blocked field goal, you had a missed field goal from Grady Gross, then the ship got righted. And so if you're cleaning those things up, your defense continues to play how it's been playing, you're going to go far in the Big Ten, man. And you've got 2 opponents in front of you that are not rollover opponents. And so at a high level, man, this was like it's exactly what UW fans needed to see. They dominated from a physical standpoint. They executed on the things and cleaned up the little things that they needed to. It was just complete game, man. Fantastic.
I couldn't agree more. One of the things that really stuck out to me was it seems we've kind of figured out this archetype of a Big Ten team, where good defense, big time running game, quarterback can be but can maybe pull out a couple throws. And we had trouble beating them when we went to Rutgers. I feel like Rutgers and Michigan are almost at a very similar level with how we played them and across the board as teams. And I think that's an archetype. I think there's a bunch of teams in the Big Ten that are that way. And I think we finally figured out how we beat those teams. Because as soon as we got rid of those penalties, the game played out the way it should have in New Jersey or the way it should have against Wazoo. And I think that's the biggest thing to pull from what we did, especially defensively, but without getting all the penalties, we showed that we figured out the equation.
This was we had said this was a very similar game to Rutgers outcome, except for we corrected the little things.
Yep. Yeah, and you know what the big piece too is, and I heard someone say this. It was on one of the post game shows. They said, you know what Jed Fish has done with this University of Washington team? They've turned it into a Big Ten football program. Mm-hmm. And you see USC, they're struggling because they still want to hit you over the top. They want to beat you with all their speed and athleticism. The difference is when you played Pac-12 football, it was a track meet every night, right? I mean, a lot of those games, go back and look, a lot of Pac-12 football is won in the 30s, is won in the 40s. Where's Big Ten football won? In the 20s.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. It's won in the 20s. Jed, man, in an 9-month period has really turned this team into more of a smash mouth team. It's just freaking stellar performance from our offense, man. This defense is supposed to be, one of the best in the Big Ten, and they got names. I mean, they got. I think Izzo talked about it on the Michigan preview podcast. I think they got 2 guys in the first round, another 2 guys supposed to be coming off in the second round. I mean, they've got names all over the place, and 429 yards of offense. I think to their 285, 287, something like that. I mean, it's a statement. It's a statement win, man. Like we said, and there's a lot of impact.
Yeah. Washington this is a key. It's just these little things, right? Like Washington was 5 of 11. They were 45% on third down. Michigan was 33%, 4 of 12. Those are the things that are going to get you W's. We knew that they would probably turn the ball over. They commit 2 turnovers a game. We took advantage of those. We scored 10 points off their 2 turnovers too. So, outgaining them through the air 315 to 113. Yeah, that's an uphill battle, man.
It really feels like we turned a corner, especially mentally. It feels like we got over the kicking problems. We got over the small defensive and especially the offense in the red zone problems. So let's take a look at, unless you guys have any more high-level thoughts you want to get into, let's take a look at some of the highlighted players from the offensive performance, because we put up 429 yards on a really good Michigan defense. And, the offensive line, they had their struggles at times, but they stood out too.
Here's someone that, we've talked about on every pod, but there's a reason. Man, Will Rogers, man, Willie Rowe. I don't know if that's his nickname, but that's my nickname for him. I'm a nickname kind of guy. So Willie Rowe, 271 passing yards. He spread the ball all over the place. Hit 7 different receivers. When you have a big-time defensive line and you have a unit that can create a lot of pressure, how do you slow them down? Hit them with the screen game. And then we hit him with the screen game early, And then we hit him with that monster play where we lined up Damon Williams in the bunch on the right side, threw it over to him, and came all the way back across the field to
The double pass to Cam Davis.
to Cam Davis. And I mean, dude, how sick was that? Man, he had a convoy, didn't he?
He did. He should have scored on it. Those guys missed some blocks, but that was what Izzo was talking about. Was like, yo, open the bag up. Let's see what you got in there. And that was one of them.
Exactly, man. I mean, it's a perfect game, man. You might as well open it up. And I mean, that's my highlight standout player, man. I think is Willie Rowe.
Izzo, who stood out to you?
I was really impressed with Kamren. Constantly open. You when you're playing against a defensive line like this who's getting pressure, and they were in our face a lot. You have to have those release valves, and Kamren, Giles Jackson were those guys this week. Kamren, 7 catches for 65 yards. I mean, stepping up when Quentin Moore goes down, that was supposed to be the guy, right? He looked like the guy as he was coming out early in this year. For Kalecki to step up, help in the blocking game, and then be your release valve is massive. He had a huge game. Jonah Coleman, obviously, just Mr. Consistent, so clutch. There's a couple runs there. He runs like a bowling ball. He's so hard to bring down, especially early on in the game when he's got fresh legs. He just runs right through guys. You can't arm tackle him. He's too built, too sturdy, too balanced. He just looks phenomenal. 18 carries, 80 yards, touchdown.
Were you happy that he got his goal line touch?
Yes.
And then got it again when they called it back and said it wasn't a touchdown?
Yeah. I don't care what running backs, we literally wanted, those are the plays that we wanted inside the 5, Mike. All 3 of us talked about it. We wanted the running backs to get carries inside the 5 and the fade to Denzel, and look what worked. It's fantastic. I mean, easier said than done, right? Because you have to have a diversified play calling sheet when you're inside the 5, but especially in the Big Ten, like Noah's saying, like that's where you have to win games in the Big Ten. 5 for 6 in the red zone, obviously huge step forward. So that's massive. I loved Damon Williams. Again, the double pass was amazing, but just for him to come in and own that, I can't remember. I think it was in maybe the second quarter he owned a drive. It was either in second or third, where they kept him in for the game. He doesn't disrupt the rhythm of Will Rogers. It's almost like a little bit of a breather. And he was effective. He extends plays, tires out a defense. When you can effectively mix that up without screwing with anybody's rhythm as a quarterback, then you're going to have success. And that is just something that's going to be really hard to contend with as you go down the stretch. So it's like a little secret weapon.
Did you see what Jed Fish said about Damon today about his usage for the rest of the season?
Say?
He said that he's going to try to get him in about 12 plays a game for every game this year. And what you were saying holds a lot of water, because if you feel comfortable when he gets in the game, you don't feel like there's a drop off from Will Rogers to him. And that's important. And those reps are going to be, he's going to have, I think he said 150 reps for the season is what they're aiming for. If he gets that going into next year as the starter, he's a seasoned veteran coming in almost. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So I agree with you totally on that.
Yeah,
so much for the red shirt. Yeah, and I agree with it.
you know what's good about that too is, so if that's the case, which I think we all are seeing it, unfold in front of our eyes, there's not going to be a crazy quarterback competition going into spring ball, which if you think about it is kind of nice, because I think a lot of times you lose all those valuable reps when you have a quarterback competition. Yeah, I know iron sharpens iron and all those things, but dude, Damon Williams is going to be able to go with the ones all of spring, all of fall camp, and he'll be like that solidified like number 1 moving forward, and getting 150 reps, whatever that may be. I mean, dude, that's you just can't fathom just how vital that'll be for him moving forward.
Yeah, it helps with recruiting. You know what it is. So long term, you know who your guy is.
Yep.
It can't be understated. So, those guys, obviously, Denzel, Giles, both 4 or 5 catches, 80 yards, a touchdown each. I love Giles' route and his ability to stay within his body and make sure that he comes down with that catch, because there was a little bit of a bobble at the end, but he just snagged it and put his mitts on it and locked it down going into the end zone. So that was huge.
You talking about the back shoulder touchdown?
Back shoulder pass.
Yeah. Dude, Giles yak too, bro. He's had so many yards after catch.
Yeah, man.
He was slippery. Did you see the moves he put on?
Woo. We got very few notes on like play calling issues, play calling things that we would have changed. It just looked great. TT Ali, man. Statement of the offense. I think for the year so far, and maybe there's some recency bias in there, but to take on as a Portland State transfer, to take on a first, second round defensive lineman who wore a who wore a T-shirt that said "Bad day to be a Husky"
I
as he's
saw that.
flying out to Michigan or flying out from Michigan to UW, and then for you to just kind of put it on him, that was massive. Goal line, right after a confusing call from the referees where they let us kick the field goal and then they recalled the touchdown, but I guess they blew it dead before the kick happened. Anyways, it was just weird.
Dude,
And then you just
on the TV copy,
yeah,
we went to break. Like they kicked the field goal, went to break, and they come back and they're like, "Yeah, touchdown." Oh, wait a minute. No, it's not a
just
touchdown.
kidding.
Yeah,
This is
Yeah.
bizarre.
And everyone's
I
like,
haven't seen that before. It was kind of
Yeah.
a weird game refereeing, but massive statement to just have no fear, no doubt in that moment. Jonah just hops over and TT Ali blows out Mason Graham on that play. Shout out to Evan Feather for tweeting out that video, called attention to it. It was massive. And then the last thing I have is just Grady Gross, man. Huge redemption. He's got to do a lot for the confidence. After the block kick, I was really concerned. Going into half, that was worrisome because we should have been up 20-10 after the first half, but we weren't. So yeah, so those are kind of my guys: Kalecki Latu, Coleman, Damon, Denzel Boston, Giles Jackson. There's just so many guys, man. It was just a wonderful game to watch.
I have actually, instead of a person, I got a group to call out, and that is the offensive line. And they didn't have a particularly great day. Don't get me wrong. They gave up 4 sacks and 6 TFLs, but they kept battling against a defensive line that's probably going to be the best defensive line they see all season.
Yeah.
And they played well enough in the big moments to win. And that's what didn't happen against Rutgers. That's what didn't happen against Wazoo. When we've been struggling, it's in those big moments, them not coming through. And I think it completely made up for it. And I think it very much was a turning point for the offensive line and how we feel with the confidence moving forward as we go into an Iowa or an Indiana or a Penn State or anything. We know we can play against any of these teams, and we actually have the blueprint to win. Do we have anything else we want to bring up as far as offensive players to highlight?
Man, Izzo, you said it, man, but dude, I'm glad to get Grady Gross, man. That redemption that you said. I mean, dude, he is a 4-year dog. I mean, somebody who's been, here through a lot of adversity, and for him to just kind of get that back. And I also want to say this too. I think after the game, they asked Jed about, did you lose? Have you lost any confidence with Grady? And he said, like, if there's anybody I haven't lost confidence with, and it's Grady, just because what he does, the preparation he does, what he puts in every day of practice. And he asked him right before that kick, he's like, "You got this?" And he's like, "Yeah, I got it, coach." And it's just like instilling that, confidence in himself and with the coaching staff is huge. So I wanted to give a shout out to Grady Gross too, man. This money.
Yeah, because like you said, he was so good last year. To see him finally kind of get that confidence back is very important. Now let's shift our focus to the defense. It was a very good defensive outing. There was some stuff that made you want to pull your hair out a little bit, but for the most part, we held a good team to 17 points. We protected the house. Let's get into this. I'm going to start with you on this one, Izzo. Izzo, what were some of the keys to this defensive victory and players that maybe apply to those keys?
The biggest 2 things, man, is like I had said before, capitalizing on 2 second half turnovers. Like that's key. You got to shut the game down. If you score points off turnovers, I mean, I don't know what the percentages are, but we talk about things that sway your chances of winning or losing, and that's going to massively sway you towards winning is scoring on turnovers. Another big kudos, shout out to the crowd, man. 72,000 strong. They played a big role in this. There was a key, I think it was third and 1 or 3rd and 2. We caused the false start. I think that was literally on the crowd. And so just, it's hard to come into this is why what are we now, 16-0 in our last 16 games or something like that. At home. That's a key factor why you do not want to come to Montlake. This isn't just us chirping and UW fans like hoorah, we're the best. It's really a tough, super tough place to play, especially in prime time.
What? When you say that, you got to give props to Jed Fish and the whole like Husky athletic department, because they've really been able to rebound after the big loss of an offseason that we had, to making us feel that again, where you come out, they had the pom-poms going, like it was the best purple out we've ever seen in Seattle.
Yeah, it was fantastic.
Did you guys see the greatest setting sign? You know, like the huge sign that like they roll over top of the of
Yes.
the student section. Someone like one of the like the deputy ADs said after the game, they're like, if anybody knows where the sign is, we think it walked out in the pandemonium.
I'd love to find that. They'll find it on Greek Row after this.
Yeah.
100%. It's gonna be hanging over the Alpha Sigma Phi house or something like that.
Was this also the first week with students?
Not at the game.
Yeah, but dude, the students were pivotal in this game.
That was like the first call out for Jed was the student section, how proud he was of how he showed up and how they were there for dog walk there early. It was awesome. Aside from those two kind of more high level things, capitalizing on turnovers and the crowd noise, Voight Tanufi, man, I think it's time.
Yo,
You guys have
Yeah.
Noah, Mike, you guys have called him out a lot this year as like a guy to watch. And it's tough as like just maybe even like from a casual fan standpoint to be like, hey, there's a rotational defensive lineman that will play edge and will play inside and be like, that guy is super important because he's not playing the entire game. Whereas you have like your Tupatalas and Bruners. I think he deserves to be right up in that conversation with Bruner and Tupatala as like dudes who are drastically impacting every game. He had 6 tackles right alongside Bruner in this game. I think he had a sack. He forced that fumble. Man, that fumble was huge.
Yeah, gigantic, huge.
Probably the play of the game.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Boyd's playing himself into like that. He's playing so well. The coaches are like, how do I take him off the field?
Yeah.
You can't.
He plays perfectly into this scheme that we talk about, right? Every week we talk about the rotation and how you keep guys fresh. And he's so perfect to have a massive impact because in defenses that we've had prior, it's hard to find a spot for him when you have Braylon Trice on the field or, you know, X number of whatever defensive linemen we send the league. Yeah.
Well, they don't even just use him as like, oh, he's a speed rush or he's a D tackle on a rush. When he was on, I saw first downs where they had him lined up at defensive tackle, like because he's making such a play at, I mean, was he 280, 275?
Yeah, I mean, they had him on the offense. He laid it.
I saw that. Yeah, that was awesome. They had him first drive.
It's just, he just plays perfectly into this scheme. And again, Belichick gets the most out of these guys where he sees an advantage that a defensive lineman has on an offensive lineman, and he plays into that matchup a bunch. And Voy is the benefactor. He is the guy that you want to expose in those situations. So massive for him. The other guy I'll call out here too, Linneus Davis. This has got to be his coming out game, I would say. I mean, he's had the impact in other games, but dude, that batted ball he had, I can't remember. I think it was third and I want to say like 4 or 5. It might have been after that false start even. He bats the ball down. That's the end of their drive. And I was talking to a couple guys, just some connections or what have you. And they were like, what was big was that the edges contained the outside and forced their running backs in the middle. And if for a team that's reliant on their running back game, it's tougher to get explosives inside the tackles. And so that was a key factor. Linneus Bandis had a really big role in that too. It was a great game for the defensive line, man. Again,
they had to play a bunch too because Valdez apparently went out.
Yeah,
and I know they're still monitoring what happened to him. But Davis had to play a lot this weekend. So
yeah, he did.
Soga Paulo played a lot too.
Yeah. He looked a lot better too. He looked a lot better.
He did, man. He needed to get He needed to get comfortable, man. But he looked a lot better. In this game.
He's so huge. So Bruner had his Bruner game, 6 tackles, made a massive impact. He's the leader of your defense, him and Tupatala. And then, you know, I'll let you know, talk about our boy in the secondary there who had. Yeah, go ahead.
Maybe the play of the game. Come on,
probably.
You already know. Come on.
Before I get to Cam Fab, I just want to say it. You know, I wrote this in here. You know, the Husky defense. That was my player unit of the game, man. I mean, I just couldn't be more impressed with our in-game adjustments because all week we were preparing for this run-heavy offense, and that's exactly what we saw with Alex Orji. You know, run. Yeah, he had a couple 6-yard passes. You know, 10. I mean, very, very minor passes, but more. Shimon Moore, he saw it, man. The head coach, and so they bring in Tuttle. But the reason why I'm talking about so much about the adjustments is here's the drive chart. Okay, punt, punt, punt.
That's orgy, probably, right?
Yeah, it is. They take Orgy out. Then they go, here comes Jack Tuttle, who if you guys saw during the game, you see how long Tuttle's been in. He was the backup to Michael Penix at Indiana.
Oh,
That's who
interesting.
Jack Tuttle was. Yeah. So punt, punt, punt. They bring in Tuttle. Then they go touchdown, field goal. They go halftime, then touchdown to start the third quarter. And then it's like, okay, dude, the wheels are kind of falling off. And then here come the adjustments. We get out of the bear front. Then they go punt, punt. Then they go fumble, pick six, or a pick by Cam Fab, and then end a game. But it's just, dude, that to me is the epitome of like in-game adjustments. So it's like, okay, we shut these guys down. They got to bring in a new quarterback. Then they start piercing us because what we were so ready for is run, run, run. That's what our defense was. And finally, man, you see it, and it's like, dude, fourth quarter, just absolute shutdown city. And
So-
then, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say to your point, before the game started this week, the press was asking Belichick about whether or not that he would key in solely on a run. Like, what are you doing differently this week? And he's like, no, we got to play all sides of the game. Like, this is to that point. Like, this is why you do that.
The player of the game for me, I guess it was for me is on the defensive side of the ball is Cam Fab. Thanks for letting me take that one from you.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, I'm bogarting everybody over here.
No, it's great. I mean, dude, Cam Fab. I mean, if that kid could play against Michigan and Michigan only, I mean, think about all the impact plays that he had in the national championship. Coming with this pick, and that tight end runs that little like drag route. He comes out of the secondary and just like piss missile. It just absolutely takes out that tight end.
The locks are flying,
dude. I mean, he's prototypical dog, man. 4 tackles, pass deflection, a pick. I just couldn't be more impressed with our in-game adjustments.
Yeah, I agree. Nobody is too big or too bad for what we have talent-wise and scheme-wise with this defense. I got a question for you guys. Have you ever wanted to walk into Husky Stadium where there's 70,000 people and be the best-looking person in the stadium? If you have, make sure you go to Simply Seattle, hit that QR code. Our good friends at Simply Seattle hooked us up, and we look great. You see that QR code? Make sure you snap that. Go check it out. Get all the Husky gear you want, plus Mariners, Sonics, Storm, all that stuff. Everything at Simply Seattle.
While you're at it, be sure to check out the Dubbed Up Discord community with over 2,700 members. It's the largest organized chat room for all things Washington Husky athletics. You want insider access? Our VIP membership unlocks exclusive chat rooms and rumors you won't find anywhere else. Hit the QR code on the screen and join the conversation today. Go Dogs. Thank you for everything.
Is there any more like high-level thoughts you guys have about the defense?
No, I mean, I just think not even just from the defensive side, but just like my final thoughts here. You made the improvements that you need to in the little pieces of the game that dictate whether or not these are wins and losses. And statistically, like we've said, we've won every game from an overall yardage standpoint, but we weren't able to convert in the red zone. We were committing too many penalties, and that's the product of having a younger team and Jed Fish figuring out what his strengths are in the red zone. This was us executing what we needed to. You know, we've got some guys who are banged up. You've got Durfee hopefully coming back. Solo looks like he's going to be coming back for this game, hopefully. Valdez, like you said, Mike's dealing with some stuff. So this is an Iowa football team that is going to be, again, another Big Ten just bruising type of squad. But this is the third team in a row that we've kind of played with this type of mold. And so our defense just plays well into this Big Ten offensive scheme that they like to run, where they want to run it down your throat. So if we continue to do this, we continue to execute how we do in the red zone, we run the football, we throw our fades to Denzel Boston, you're going to see some success, and we could surprise some teams. I saw a chart that charts out EPA, which is like opponent adjusted, expected yards that you get on offense and give up on defense. UW is right up in that top right corner. And I saw Bud Davis is one of the analysts who puts those together. He had us circled in that CFP group. And it's like, don't start, man.
Don't do that to me. Don't give me hope.
So, man, just super happy for our boy Grady Gross too. So everybody, we needed this one, man. This was huge.
Agreed. No, I was gonna say.
Yeah. My final thoughts, man, is you got to tip your hat to Jed, man. We talked about him opening up the bag a little bit, and he did. The trick play. If you see
Yes.
Brennan Carroll on the sideline,
Yes.
like, did you guys see that? He was like, kind of,
Oh, he was smiling.
yeah, he was like,
Yeah.
"Yes, sir." So, but no, I mean, a lot of people have been kind of questioning Jed, including us a little bit. Like, hey, what are some of these decisions you've been making?
Yeah.
And even the flip flopping, him and Willie Rowe and Demond. It's like, Will Rogers runs a 17-yard, scamper up to get a first down, and then all of a sudden you pull in, Demond and play 5 plays with him, and we punt. It's just like, there's a lot of like weird things that have happened throughout the year, but could the puppet master have called it any better this game? I mean, I don't think so, man. Demond
Nope.
came in, was absolutely dialing, the beautiful trick play. But here's the other thing. How about the beautiful little dart on that slant route to Jeremiah Hunter that he threw as
yeah.
well? I mean, dude, Demond's arm strength is something dude, I don't think that'll be questioned much is how good of an arm he really has. So
You're totally right. Hunter was open all night too.
Yeah.
They just missed him.
Yeah.
He was open all night.
yeah, man.
Yeah.
So I wanted to tip my hat to Jed and just say, man, just keep dialing that in. The other little piece I wanted to say really quick, and this is kind of looking forward, is this schedule as we get into it, the kind of the second half of the year goes at Iowa bye week, at Indiana, USC, Penn State, UCLA bye week, and then Oregon. And it's like, I think we looked at this game starting with this Michigan game, like, man, we have murderers row. Some of these games have kind of opened up a little bit, and
You play like this, man.
yeah, I mean, you can win a lot of games going forward here. I mean, I don't think anybody on this final schedule, maybe even until like you get into your Penn States and your Oregon, but those other games, man, eh, they look like those are winnable games. I think we're going to be in a lot more games than people really thought. You have people on the Twitter timeline like, this is a 5-win team. It's like,
Nope.
oh, come on,
No.
man. Like,
Readjust. Time to
yeah.
readjust. Good
Yeah,
call
so-
out about Jed too, man. And tip of the cap. Even after this one, he's like, there's some things we can need to do as play callers, as coaches to make adjustments even after this game. And that was awesome to hear, man. Like, even with this being your best performance as a coach, in my opinion, so far, I loved hearing that. So tip of the cap and much love to Jed Fish. Good job.
Yeah. One of the things he said today in the press conference that stood out to me too was talking about how this is Big Ten football, and we have to have those expectations. Like when we were in the Pac-12, there was 44 to 41 games. You know what I'm saying? This is going to be a different kind of ball, and he's owning that, and I think that's a good thing. If we end up scoring 35 points a game, I'm all about it. Don't get me wrong, but proving that we can win these tough games is what's going to make the difference in this league, because that's what this league is all about. And I think, like I said, I think we turned a corner doing that. All right. So before we get out of here, I want to make sure you guys go smash that QR code. The Discord is the best Husky community that's out there, 2,700 strong. You can get all the information you want to get about Husky football, but actually all of Husky athletics first there. I'm telling you, it comes out about a week before anything that hits the actual press. So make sure you go in there. It's free to join. There's a small fee for the VIP, but the VIP is definitely worth it. As somebody who was part of the VIP, I love it. I check it every day. All right, you guys, for Izzo, for Noah, I'm Mike Flaunt. Make sure you guys check us out. Tomorrow, we're going to be dropping our preview for the Iowa game. Besides that, you always know what it is. This is the Dubbed Up Podcast. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs, baby.
baby.
So much fun, man. Coming off that win.
Bro,